Hey everyone, Dan here. We are just after close on Wednesday, April 14th, and wanted to take a look at a bunch of stocks that we've been tracking for a while and give some updates on them. Before we get started, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also, the timestamps for the stocks in this video will be in the first pinned comment below. So if you're looking just for a particular stock or 2 or 3 or 8, scroll down there, click the timestamp, and it should take you right to it. All right, so I wanted to start here today just to kind of give you a view of what happened in the market. I'm sure you know, but there was definitely some turmoil. With a few big dips here. At the end, there was this weird little rally, so we'll see what that means in the coming days. Congrats if you were in coal today. I'm just kidding. But a lot of stocks got sort of like beat down quite a bit today, especially the growth stocks that we're watching. But let's unpack it a little bit and sort of see where things stand. So first on the list is Mara. Mara fell out of its channel today. It's been in this channel since March 22nd. And, I was getting pretty excited this morning when it was toward the bottom of the channel, and then it fell into my dip buy zone. I was expecting it to hold that 44.26. Obviously, it fell through there, but it may be making its way back up. It has a good support zone here at 42.05 from all of this previous support. So that's what I'm looking for. I did dip buy it when it was, I think around this area today, just above my 44.26. I would offer one thing to watch out for, which is there is a gap here, and there is a gap here. And this lower one, I don't quite know if that had enough volume through these wicks to fill it. It may not have. And if it didn't, I would be very cautious that it could come down into the lower 30s. Cautious if you're holding a position. Great opportunity if you are looking for an entry point. This one, same question. These wicks kind of stretched down here. So I'm not quite sure if it had enough volume to fill that. But if not, that'd be a few bucks away at 38. But a few bucks at this price point is a pretty big percentage change. That would be about another 10% or more drop for Mara to get down there. But it's like not out of scope for Mara to have big enough moves to get down to this gap and even to this gap, even before the week is through. But in the immediate term, I'm going to look at that 42.05 as support. If we want to look for additional support, if it does continue to dip, obviously the first thing I'd look out for is that it's coming down to fill those gaps, but I look for another support level there. If it doesn't hold that 40.38, then I'd feel pretty confident that it's going to come down and fill that gap. I would sort of want to see what it's doing around 38.50 at that point. I guess we can just put like a little box there to tell us take a look and see what's happening, around this area. I guess we'll make that yellow. And if it does fall through there, then we can have some sort of confidence that it's coming down to this lower gap. And, for me, I haven't exactly set a stop loss yet. But, like I said, this is just a couple dollars from or maybe just $1 a share from the position that I took today. So it's nothing that catastrophic yet. But, in the coming days, I'll keep an eye on it and sort of tweet out some updates, or there's a good chance that there'll be another video on it this week even. All right, so AMD. AMD, I do have a position in because this is my dip buy zone, which is lining up with filling the gap here. It fell out of this channel. It seems like forever ago, but that was just 2 days ago. So it was Monday. Fell very quickly out of the channel, came down, filled the gap, tried to work itself back out of this box, hasn't been able to. I would say that it has now exposed itself a gap here. So I would look for it to come up into the 80s again, and that might give it enough momentum to work itself back up. If we want to check on the MACD, let's see the MACD here. Oh, okay, so so the issue here is basically that, let's zoom in a little bit to make sure I'm reading this correctly. Yeah, so you see how the yellow, the MACD line, is descending the whole time here. And that's fine when the price is moving down, but the price is stabilizing in this area. I mean, there's slightly lower highs. I'd just be careful that it's not working itself toward a bearish divergence. I don't think that it exactly is yet, but you know, I would be cautious that that's not what's happening. And that would happen if there's some higher highs here, but the MACD keeps moving lower. So I think we're close, but we're probably okay for now. The good news is, you know, this histogram was lower than this more recent histogram, and this red histogram area was lower than this red histogram area. So the bullish momentum is picking up as the bearish momentum seems to be dying down. Yep, so just watch out for the bearish divergence, and I have a video in my previous videos of how to read MACD, and it talks about bullish and bearish divergence in there. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, you can have a look there. RSI is just at 37, which we know AMD is pretty good about continuing to run up and down. You know, constantly going over 70 and then working itself down under 30 and then working itself back up over 70. So it didn't quite make it here. It made it just past the midpoint in its most recent push and then bounced off of the oversold zone. So, you know, we may have a big move coming up here. So that's going to be my hope in the coming days, is that we're coming up to fill that gap before the week is through, at least. All right, SQ square. So it's at the bottom of this channel. You know, there was it's been hugging the top for so long, it was just a matter of time before it was going to come back down. Now, would be a tremendous buy opportunity if it holds the bottom of this channel. So if we make it to open tomorrow, which will be here, and it's around, say, high 260s. I mean, like 260, 80, you know, to about maybe 262, 263. If it's somewhere in there, you know, then it held the bottom of the channel. It's looking really good. It can definitely fall out of the channel like we saw here and work itself back in. That's just going to be a riskier position to take, but up to you, depending on where your tolerance levels are, of course. But, you know, that would be the absolute best opportunity if it's holding the bottom of the channel, or if it falls out and then quickly works itself back in, because then it would have tested the bottom and the top so many times throughout the period that it's been holding this channel that it just gives you a really good opportunity at a channel entry point, which is at the bottom of the channel, and ride it up toward the top. On the MACD, you know, big bearish activity here, like not surprising. Nothing tremendous or astounding there to see. Bullish momentum was kind of losing strength prior to this move down, so even though it was gaining strength, even though the price was still moving up, it was losing strength. Trying to see if there's a good example of like the bearish divergence here. It's not super clear. In this instance, the best way to have picked this out would have been just that these green histogram areas were receding as the price was still continuing to move up the channel. That should have signaled to you that the bullish strength is moving out. Sorry, I'm just shuffling around here. And you know, there might be a move down soon. All right, so I'm like in a slightly different area today because where I usually record was loud for child reasons, and so I had to adjust my place. We have a lot of stocks to go and I'm already uncomfortable. All right, so Draftkings has fallen out of its channel, but is working to get itself back in. You know, it's just out of the channel. It's only been in this channel for a couple of days, so this isn't like the most long-standing channel. You know, I would look for, if you're looking for an entry point here, or if you're looking to see, you know, where you might hold instead of cut loss, you know, probably that 57.79 area, if it can't hold that, could be a good cut loss, because there's a chance it's coming down to fill this gap, though I would kind of suspect that this price activity should have mostly taken care of it. Question would be if on the lower end here, like right around 58 bucks, it just needs like a little bit of a fill in. The danger there is always that like a move down to fill that, there's enough selling pressure that picks up that it pushes it lower, and it just kind of gets caught in a bad spiral. But we'll see. This was my previous buy zone. It obviously came down into it and then formed this channel and looked like it was going to recover pretty well. But now we'll see what's happening. At the moment, it looks like it's fallen out of the channel, but it's trying to hug the bottom bound of the channel, which would be a good sign. It'll be interesting to see what happens right here with this histogram. Does it turn green? Does it stay red? And if so, does it really like go deeper than this red? That seems unlikely, but again, we'll have to see. Yeah, that's about all that I would say on the DraftKings side. We could take a quick look at the MAs. Okay, so I mean, it is, you know, there's some good bullish strength still happening. The 12 and the 20 have still crossed over the 50, so that's a good sign. But yeah, most important thing would be if it can get itself back in the channel. There's also the possibility that this is just going to widen out the channel, but that'll require it still pushing itself back up at some point in the near future. All right, Corsair Gaming. So this one, there we go. It's a little bit of a better view. Broke out of its down channel, which was looking really good, but then I think it just kind of got, you know, drawn down by the market as a whole. Oh, it's really rough when you zoom in a little bit. The chart kind of starts to look bonkers. But let's take a look at a trend line here. You know, what I'd maybe look for, I don't think it's going to hold this steep of a trend line because this is pretty crazy, but I would say around this like sticky area, it's probably a fair, a more fair trend line to expect it to try to hold. So if it's going to form a new channel, I would look for the bottom bound to be somewhere around here, which would put us opening, you know, right around sideways tomorrow, and then starting to work ourselves up in a couple of days, being in the mid to high 34s at close. So that's what I would look for there. It does have good support right around this area, like right where it is right now. So that'll be interesting to see. And these are some higher highs. This is another good sign. You have several higher highs here. So again, this isn't forming anything like a perfect parallel channel yet, but you know, those are good signs. If we want a little bit of extra info, let's see how our MACD is looking. So MACD is looking on, I mean, the histogram's looking on the slightly bullish side of things. You know, the bearish momentum is certainly waning. The bullish momentum is kind of flat with what looks to be a likely crossover of the MACD crossing underneath the signal line, which would be bearish. But it could then just get caught by this uptrend, which would be, you know, which would still put us in a good situation. So that's what I'm going to look for from Corsair. Yeah, okay. Now, TDOC, I've been kind of shouting about for a few days, probably about the amount of time. Well, no, I can tell you exactly when I started shouting about it, actually. It was when this line is here because there was a bullish divergence here, meaning there were lower lows being made while the MACD was moving up. Let me see if it should. This isn't the time frame that I drew it on, but let's see if it plays out here. So here you see the MACD is at 1.77, and then there's a lower low here. Now it doesn't follow through on this time frame, but anyway, ever since that happened, I've been saying that's where I took my position, was when I saw this bullish divergence. And so, then it formed this channel. It's been holding this channel for a few days, and it is now at the bottom of the channel, still continuing to hold. It does have really good support down at this 175 area. I wouldn't expect it to drop down there at this point because this 181 is going to have a ton of support for you. That should be a really strong zone right about here. Should be a really good area of support. And it is opening up some gaps. There's a gap here that could be filled up, which would pop it up back squarely into the channel. So I haven't changed my position on TDOC at all. I still think that it's looking good. And as long as that's in that channel, then I'm feeling pretty solid about it. Could take a quick look at the RSI, and then, okay, so 55 in the RSI, so we're sort of like not good, not bad. And this is all still lines up. We'll have to watch and see if that MA12, the orange, crosses below the purple, the MA20, which would be a slightly bearish sign. But right now, these MAs all line up as we'd want them to. 12's on top, then the 20, then the 50, then the 180 is down, and even the 180 is above that support level of 181. So, we look for it to bounce off the 180 is an additional sort of like moving support zone. So could be interesting. I did say last night, I think, on Twitter that, I did expect a dip on TDOC. So this was an expected move, at least as far as I was concerned today. Just from what I was seeing on the MACD, I expected it to dip today, and it did. So congrats if you saw that and you happened to catch the dip. I think you might have made a good move. Time will tell. All right, so TWST had a sad face day. So it was looking all rosy, and then it kind of stalled out, as the market was having a struggle today, and then it kind of gave in to the market, I think. So, with TWST, the good thing here is, there's a couple of good things. One, it hasn't needed to go anywhere near this green uptrend, so that still is a level of support that exists way down here. At this point, it's not my ideal level of support, that's for sure, because it's a pretty far drop. Like tomorrow, it would put you down to 122, so that's not even going to be a factor at this point. But the good thing is, it's has gotten itself out of this red downtrend, which was what had been crushing it for a long time. It goes all the way. Sorry, I'm doing this with my left hand. I'm not left-handed. So, this goes back a long time, this down channel. So, that breaking out of that is like a big move. And it's obviously having a hard time breaking all of this topping out here. So that's going to be your zone to watch for. Kind of establish above 150 and get a support hold there. So let's throw a line in there with my left hand. If I can do it. Oh, look at that. It's right on 150. Going to be looking for support there for it to really start to make a move. It's got a lot of upside left, in my opinion. And yeah, I think that it's still looking good. It was a rough day for it, especially if you were all excited this morning, but yeah, it's just what happens sometimes. The MAs are still looking good, so we'll see if this 20 can provide some support. It's right where it is right now. If not, hopefully the 50 catches it if it needs to. And then on the, let's see where the VWAP is at, actually. Okay, VWAP's not really giving us much interesting info. MACD basically doing about what you would expect. Yeah, see, the interesting thing here is, I mean, it was very, very brief, but this candle to this candle, that's definitely a lower low, right? And the MACD went from 3.56 to 3.81. So that is a bullish divergence, where it's making lower lows, but the MACD is picking up. So, were I watching that in real time, to be honest, I probably would have said, oh, I think, we're going to have some bullish activity here. And yes, the next one was bullish, but it essentially like triple topped out there and just couldn't hold it. And then I think with the market falling down, it just couldn't hold the pressure. But I would look, it does have good support in this area, like all of this support from yesterday. And then it was previous resistance at open yesterday. So I would look for it to hold this like 140.63 area right now. But you do have the crossover there. It's crossing down. It'll be interesting to see how this red plays out. The green, yeah, it's not giving us much right now on the MACD. All right, CPNG. So this is a youngster. So not a ton of history to go off of on this one. But if we look at the channel that it's in, it's still hugging the bottom of this channel, which is fine. But, it makes me a little bit concerned that it's going to fall through the channel because it can't get a lot of upward momentum. It just kind of keeps testing the bottom. I mean, good sign that those bottoms continue to be slightly higher, but it is so slight that, at some point you just kind of worry that there's more topping out happening than there is like reliable building of strength upward, and that's just going to like play out poorly. And by all the topping out, I'm mostly looking at like this area here. If it can get over that area, that would be really, really helpful. And I mean, even then, it's still going to be very, very low in the channel. Would have a lot of like upside well into the 50s to just be playing in its channel. So this one is still interesting to me. I would look for it to build some additional strength before I would want to move too heavily into it. Let's see if anything's showing anything interesting here. Okay, so the bullish is picking up, but so is the bearish. So, it's like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It's just going to take some time. We're going to have to see how it plays out. But for the time being, the thing that most concerns me is the constant testing of the bottom of the channel, not running up even to the midpoint of the channel, and consistently getting stopped out here. So that's what I'm going to want to see CPNG overcome before I feel super comfortable jumping in. JD fell out of this down channel, so bottoming like even further than the bottom. But then it came back in and is like still moving down in its down channel. But, it did fill this gap mostly. I would be a little bit worried, maybe there's still something to fill down into the 77 range, but we'll see. But there's just so many gaps on the upside that would break it out of this channel and would come fill the gap. That get us into the 80s and then even eventually into the mid 80s. That's still what I'm looking for in this one. It is slightly gaining bullish strength, and it is mostly losing its bearish strength, even though it had this big drop. So to me, that's a good sign. It had this big drop, but still it's gaining more bullish momentum than it is bearish momentum. So I do think that there's something here at JD. I just think it may take a little bit to, it may need to bake a little while and before we can yank it out of the oven. But ultimately what I'm going to be looking for when it does start to make its move up is catch it as it's moving up this channel, and definitely try to catch it before it hits these gaps, and then look for it to fill this one, and then continue to build strength and fill this small one, and then ultimately to fill this bigger one up here. And then maybe it gets us to be able to test the topping out in the high 86s, which would be great. A great percentage move for JD. I think it's coming. We're going to keep a close eye on it to see when that happens. But MACD is looking good to me. CrowdStrike, which we've been watching for a while, has been in this channel since March 26th and is doing a really good job holding the channel. It fell out slightly today. Again, a lot of selling pressure in the market as a whole. But, it's working to get itself back into the channel. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Get back into the channel. And then, it wouldn't shock me if it moves up pretty quickly to retest the upper bound of the channel. On the RSI, it's pretty low right now. It's just 41. So a little bit more room to move down potentially, but bullish and bearish strength, both increasing on the MACD. So, I would just keep watching the signs, look for a crossover on the MACD, crossing above the signal. And especially if it's a sharp cross, that would be ideal. Or even here, you see this was a really flat cross. And this could have very easily made you think, oh, this is just gonna kind of waffle back and forth. Just this one crosses over that one crosses back over this one. But then what happened was the real estate quickly started increasing between them. And when the real estate starts increasing, then you can feel confident that it's not just doing this like bobbing and weaving over and under each other consistently kind of thing. So keep an eye out for that as you're watching the MACD. On Palantir, I know there was a lot of hype today. People were looking for some magic. I think did not happen for various reasons, but it is still in the channel that we've been watching, in this purple channel. And, it's been here since it first entered at the end of March 24th. So it's spent a lot of days in here so far. Fell at the bottom, regained it, pushed and retested the top like all in the same day. So, when we say that like just because something falls out of the bottom doesn't mean that it's not still in the channel, or that I guess the channel's not still in play. This is like proof positive of that. This is what we mean. When it falls out, there's a big difference between it falling out and just continuing to go sideways and growing the real estate between the bottom bound of the channel and the price action versus it falling out and then working to get back in, struggling, working to get back in, and then establishing. So that's what we're going to look for anything that falls out of the channel. That said, channels don't last forever. Sometimes channels don't even last for that long at all. So just know that sooner or later the channel is going to break. So don't get so stubborn with it that you insist that it has to be going back into the channel. Because once the price action and the bottom bound of the channel start to separate more and more, you should just know that channel is probably a bust, and you should wait for the price action to settle and then look for the next channel to start forming, or take a short position of some sort and play a down channel once that starts to form. But anyway, Palantir, this is just to say, to me, this is a wild one. This is a disappointing and a frustrating one to a lot of people. But I would just continue to play the channel as long as it holds the channel, because it has consistently tested the upper bounds and beyond, and the lower bounds and beyond. So that's your opportunity. Buying on a dip at 24, and then when it hits the top, sell out at 26.49. I mean, that would be a huge profit, right? So play it that way. Buy the dips at the bottom, take your profit at the top, or somewhere near there. It doesn't have to be at the tippy top. It can be 80, 75% of the way up the channel, and then just know that like sooner or later that channel is going to break. So sometimes you might buy it at the bottom of the channel and it's going to fall out, and you're going to see that it's moving away from the channel, and you could take that as your stop loss. And sooner or later that's going to happen. IPOE, I was hopeful once it had filled this gap that we could move on. I think sort of what happened here was, until today, probably it hadn't fully filled the gap. I was hoping that it had filled it up through this way, but oftentimes stocks are going to fill it up and down, or it's going to fill it both directions, whatever that may be. On this one, it would have been filled it up and then didn't do anything until it filled it down here. So, that's to say it has now filled it from the bottom up and from the top down. And so now this might give IPOE an opportunity to move forward, get itself some stable footing, and head in a northerly direction. The MACD, the bullish momentum is waning, as is the bearish momentum, though we'll have to see how this one plays out because this was quite strong here, obviously. I could see the MACD quickly crossing back over and heading up, in the like immediate future. We'll just have to wait and see, but it's kind of looking like it may not continue to move down there. I would be looking for it to swap itself up over the signal. Low RSI. I mean, this one has not really done anything explosive since we've been waiting for the SoFi merger. So, MA is not really telling us anything that interesting. So, that's what I would basically look for on this one. Gap is over, and now it can move up. I would look for it to, I'm ultimately looking for it to test around 20 again. So that's what I'm looking for on the upside, but it's going to take a bunch of big moves to get up there. It's interesting to me that it's taking so long, but I'm sure in the longer tail of history, when we take a look back at this, something will reveal itself and kind of make sense and just sort of be a teaching opportunity. One thing to look at here is, as we can see it, is, there's certainly a trend line that's moving up here. So if it can continue to hold that, that's helpful. There are also several higher highs happening here. So there's like some sort of a sideways / slightly upward channel that could be forming, but it's nothing that's that explosive or interesting. FUBO, on this one, it's fell below this green trend line, but I was impressed what a good job it was doing holding it. I think there's two things that you could say. One, either maybe it's going to come back and regain support here, or we could just pop it down and say, that was a steep uptrend for the beatdown that FUBO has taken. It was a lot to expect for this stock to do, and that we'd be happier taking slightly lower lows, slightly less high lows, meaning the lows are still higher, but they're not as steep as we would have hoped for. So, to me, as long as it continues to do that and it's making a couple of higher highs here, it could be working itself into an upward channel that could provide some bullish sentiment, but, it's going to take a lot to work itself back, that's for sure. The MACD, bearish strength slightly increasing, bullish strength waning for sure. So, it really needs some magic in this one. The next push up really needs to get itself to like the mid 22s, in my opinion, in order for it to really have a chance at coming up to break this down trend line, which is represented by this white line, in any nearish future at all. All right, well, I hope that some of that was helpful. I appreciate you watching. Feel free to share these videos if you enjoy them. And I hope that no matter what you're trading this week, that it's going well and that you're enjoying yourself. And I will see you in the next video.